Hello there. Welcome to another talk. Hopefully there won't be any distractions or disturbances for this talk, this podcast. And today's talk is called Healing the Shadows of Your Being. Very, very important. In fact, I know that with everything that's going on just now, it's the most important thing. It was German New Medicine, and you can look this up on the internet, that proved how all illnesses come from, they called it conflict shocks that in past lives, basically, and manifests itself in illnesses. So all illnesses everything comes from emotion, emotional energy, consciousness, vibration. So with that being said, that's what you are, and so everything is vibration, and vibration attracts its type. You're basically like a radio player, and all the frequencies is in your space, or your reality is to do with the channels that are allowed to be in that space. And your shadows are the things, the dark unconscious issues are the things that manifest, and also not just negative things, but also shadows that can manifest good things. You see, but it all lies within the subconscious. And the quickest way to access the subconscious, if you can't afford a hypnotherapy session with someone, is to practice presence. So you're basically just slowing everything down. You're letting the present moment lead the way, and it's like something that came to me this morning, a download. And like my own thoughts, but it's like an energy download, and then my thoughts make up the words. But it's a vibration again. And the thoughts this morning, words came to me, and it said, God's presence is presence itself. You see? And my journey, how it all began, if you're new to my stuff, it began from an unexpected spiritual awakening at the age of 24. I'm 34 now. I know I don't look it. But so 10 years being on this path now. Yes, 10 years being on the spiritual road now, the spiritual awakening path. I didn't look up external information, didn't know anything about this kind of thing. But on this pathway, it's been a thing where I've been healing all these inner problems. You see, it's like when someone has a problem with you, it's not that they've got a problem with you, it's that they've got a problem within themselves. And so in the awakening, it was about basically showing me that truth. But before someone spiritually awakens, you spiritually awaken because you choose to face yourself. And you're choosing to face what you're facing, then is all the problems that most people run from. You see? You ascend instantly once you choose to do that. You heal, you ascend, awaken. If people take ayahuasca once, no more than twice usually, and because that induces a spiritual awakening. But they normally don't do it a lot because awakening isn't a nice experience. But it can be if you work with presence. That's probably most pleasurable way. But sometimes, certain things have to be felt as well to understand where the issue is. But you can actually understand it. I've been saying this a lot lately in my talks about pleasure. This is like a new awakening I've been going through for months now, where I've been, in my meditations getting these downloads and new spiritual awakening show me that by going with the present moment, choosing pleasure, because arousal, I've been talking about that lately as well, and that is how your arousal is, whether it's a negative arousal, a sexual arousal, an arousal in drugs or highs that you get. Pay attention to that arousal when you want something, right? And if there's a shakiness there, that's a trauma. So your arousals come out in pleasurable things. That's why, and I'd say pleasure is the easiest way to ascend and the quickest way as well. You see, but you can also do it like, like the shadow thing. By when you react to something, don't try not to judge yourself too much. It's not easy, but forgive yourself. You first have to learn how to forgive yourself quickly, because that's the big problem. And then once you start to do that, when you react, and pay attention to the reaction. What kind of feeling is it? If you slow everything down, how are you feeling when you're reacting? It takes lots of practice, but how, and there's an arousal there, like I've been saying in my past talks. You see, and I came to that conclusion because I heard psychotherapists talk about it on the internet, and so psychotherapists and also sex therapists, and that's because they're related. You see, and that's why people on the spiritual journey should talk of like tantric energy, kundalini, and that's because they're accessing the core, and the core is at the bottom of all this crap. The dark shadows, which come from, like I mentioned earlier, German New Medicine. Look it up, and it actually proved different illnesses and cancers and all these different things were from certain traumas. And they said it created a conflict shock within the psyche, and that plays out in the physical experience in another life. But yeah, so I've been talking about this lately about arousal, but arousal can be anything from a sexual arousal to wanting something, reactions. The arousal is the energetic reaction within your body, what you're feeling. So you have to become very body aware. And is there a shakiness there? Because that shakiness would have originally been created from a traumatic situation. You see, it's a sensitivity. That is why I've mentioned this before. This is the reason why porn, anything to do with sex, is painted the way that it is, because they know that it's a very powerful healer. And so they do what they do with everything. They mess up the perceptions. It's about perceptual manipulation. Like I've been saying lately about lefties, the lefty is the narcissist is the lefty. If you're an older person, 50 or more, you probably think lefty is like John Lennon. Years ago it was, but like I've mentioned, the system does this. But when I say shadow, I'm talking about the collective shadow. And by that is the core issue, I believe, in the planet. Because if what German New Medicine said is true, that traumas are what manifest illness, then that means if we heal all this, then the world heals. Then the world is a different world, and that would be the new Earth, the 5D new Earth, which they're obviously trying to stop. You interact with DNA activation, spiritual awakening. You know what I mean. But yeah, so pay attention to the arousals and your reactions to things. Meditate on it. What is meditation? When you just become whatever is. So become that sensation when the arousal's there, whether it be aggression, sexual, wanting something, or a high that you're feeling. What is it that you're trying to escape from? And as you're doing this, is what happened to me in this awakening path, from downloads and the awakening itself, is you're becoming a lot more sensitive. You're going deep within yourself. You're accessing deep psyche stuff by just paying attention to how your emotions are in the day, what you see on social media, how are you reacting to these things. It's not the external things, it's you. If you cry, if someone makes you cry and you cry out, that is within you that's doing that. Maybe they might have triggered it off, but they've actually triggered off something within you, so it's not their fault. In fact, they've actually helped you. They've helped you to release what needed to be released. Because if it's not released, it will manifest itself in physical illness. I am my mother's registered carer, so I can tell you that if you've got too much stress, then it will manifest itself. And being a carer, is I know this is a big part of this path as well. You see, and I'm very proud that I do that as well, part of the path. But back to the talk in hand. Yes, so pay attention to your reactions, your arousal. I use that word a lot, arousal, because that's arousal a lot of people, when you say arousal, they think of sex, but arousal can be anything from sex to just that feeling of wanting something, that rush you get. That's what arousal, or it can be an aggressive rush. What you're tapping into, that vibration of that rush for a second that overtakes you. Meditate on that feeling. Feel it. Right? Try to feel it all. Feel the shakiness of it. And that's the trauma. And all the trauma wants to do is reveal itself to you. It needs someone to talk to. You see? And so that's how we heal. We heal by releasing what needs to be released. What the agenda is, I believe, is the awakening. This healing. They don't want, because once we heal the collective shadow, then you have angelic powers and divinity and all that stuff. So, like I keep harping on about in my talks a lot lately, so just pay attention to your arousals, to how your reactions to things, and start working with that. And that's how you heal the shadows of your being, because that shadows of your being are your parents, the people that you've got in this life, and you manifested into the womb from the shadows of your being in the first place. So if you want to go to somewhere better in the next incarnation, this is what you've got to heal. You see? If things aren't going right for you, that's what it comes from. Right? These shadows, if you're manifesting bad lovers or romantic partners or whatever, I'm not, but I'm by myself, but if you are, that's to do with unconscious stuff. You see? You also need to learn to be alone as well. If you need to do a lot of healing and you got idiots around you, it's not going to help. You need to be by yourself to do all this healing. But I'm just going to leave it there. For latest updates, talks, news, research, and much more, please do check my website at www.lovelikefamily.com. Thank you.